This video is all about the faction's flying unit. Whether you've gone with the League of Order for Celestials, Wilderburg for the Wyvern Riders, or last but not least, Springwardens for the Cavalry Forest Eagles, in this video I'll break down exactly how you use each one of these units, giving you hero pairings and talking about which units are the very best. Hello my friends and welcome back. I'm Chisgule Gaming, and today's video is sponsored by the makers of Call of Dragons. And I wanted to make this video breaking down the flying units because people have a lot of questions about how they even work, because just because the unit flies, you also need to have heroes that fly as well in order to navigate right over terrain, fly over a river, and take advantage of the fact that you've got a flying unit here. Now with that said, each unit has a unique effect that's very powerful. So we need to review these so that you can understand exactly how you would use them. Now, I started with League of Order. I hope that you did as well, so you get more tokens of Waldir. This is an amazing faction, even though I really kind of want to be the Orcs. Whatever, it is what it is. Celestial Temple is the building where you can train your special unit. Now, depending on which faction you've chosen, the building will have a different name, and for all factions, this unlocks at City Hall 16 when you start to unlock your T3 troops as well. Now, when you want to advance the tier of your special unit, this does take some extra research. So the base level of a Celestial is 3. That's tier 3. But when you actually want to unlock tier 4, you have to unlock all of the other units at T4 first. When you unlock T5 Celestials, you have to unlock all the other units at T4, or rather T5 first. So in order to get this sort of special unit advanced, it takes a lot more, and it's worth it, okay? It's absolutely worth it. So let's get a look here at the Celestial and what it does and why it's powerful. The Celestial is a magic ranged flying unit. Okay, a lot to take in there. The magic aspect refers to the type of damage it deals. So when you pair with a hero, they need to do magic damage factor, or you're not going to get any benefit from your unit. Their damage factor won't trigger if it's a physical damage factor. They are a ranged unit, which means they attack from afar. Okay, that is important, and they are flying. Now, flying is kind of cool here. You can put a flying unit with any heroes, but if the heroes you choose also are flying, then you can navigate over terrain, then you can jump right over rivers. So for example, how do you know which heroes are flying? Well, some of them it's pretty obvious. I mean, Atheist, he's got wings, but also there's wings next to his name in the upper right here. That's how you know they're a flying hero. Thea, I mean, sure, she's got those big old wings on her, portrait over here, but she's also got wings next to her name. That's how you know she is a flying hero. You've got Krieg, another flying hero, wings next to his name. That is how you know which of these heroes are flying, okay? Now, there are not many flying heroes in the game, and I bet you, I would even potentially put down money that a flying cavalry hero is something that will happen sometime in the future. But, and not only sometime in the future, but soon. But let's get back to the point here, which is the Celestial. We're talking about this particular unit. What does it do? To see this, you actually need to tap the info button. And we can see not only their base stats, but also their ability. Right over here, increase magic attack by 5% every 4 seconds, as long as your legion has not moved. You can be fighting somebody, but you can't be moving. Only takes effect when a legion is composed entirely of Celestials. Let me tell you, if you can just stand still at range and the enemy doesn't bait you into moving forward, which does happen a lot, oh my god, you can stack a lot of attack. This is a very powerful effect, but keep in mind, you need to be stationary, which means either you need to have a lot of enemies you can hit at range, or you need to be positioned in a way that, they can't really get to you, and you're just shooting on from high, okay, at a bunch of unsuspecting units that can't hit you back. The Celestials are also powerful because they have more base attack than their sort of regular magic unit counterpart. So every faction has a magic unit, and for the League of Order, that's the Vestals. Well, a T5 Vestal has 292 base attack. Dang, that's pretty good, right? Well, hold up. 292, compared to a Celestial, 332. There's more base attack, okay? So you're just getting more stats, by the way. There's no way... It's just more stats. That's a win. So Celestials are generally better than your counterpart over here, which is the Vestal, because you have more stats, but the effect is different. Vestals are not a flying unit, by the way, but they also have an effect, and that grants a health buff, 20% health to a nearby unit every 3 seconds. And it lasts for 15 seconds, which is crazy. So Vestals are just throwing out a ton of health to your allies over here. So Vestals are pretty good to have around too. But all that to say, between the two, the Celestials are more punchy. And if I could swap out every Vestal I have for a Celestial, I probably would consider doing it, although the blend is definitely better. Now, this Celestial unit is an obvious pairing for the Atheus and Thea combo. You use Atheus because he does magic damage, okay? And you use Thea because she is flying and doesn't care about whether or not it's magic or physical. So that is the combo you would use if you wanted a flying unit. You do not want to use Krieg because he does physical damage factor, which means he won't do any damage factor at all if you put a magic unit with him. You do no damage. So you don't want to do that. You want to go with the Atheus Thea combo. Now, with that said, if you're just going to use Celestials with your regular combos, which I think is a fine idea, then all your regular combos will be back on the menu. So, for example, Lilia with Velen is insane. And yeah, you use Celestials, that's going to hit damn hard. You could use combinations like Lilia with Thea. And yeah, that combo is going to do some work. There's advantages to Thea, who, for her flying units, gives you more attack and also more march speed. So you can figure out where you would want to deploy them, but the fact that they are so mobile is very powerful. And the fact that they can attack an enemy that potentially can't hit them back because you're, potentially attacking across a river, for example, is just really amazing. Now, that said, the special units for other factions are also very, very good. Let's get a look at Wilderburg's special unit for flying units, and that is the Wyvern Rider. Now, I will go into the more detailed portrait for the Wyvern Riders in just a second, but let's talk about the fact that they are marksman, ranged, flying. So this means that you would probably use Krieg with Thea in order to get that combo running, where you've got a marksman-based hero in Krieg, you've got Thea, who's very versatile. They both fly, and they can run around and do serious damage at range. But the effect that they do here is very interesting. Wyvern Riders can consolidate their position while raining death from above, increasing their hit points and skill damage dealt. Let me show you exactly how much they do that. Here we are at the portrait for the Wyvern Rider, increasing your hit points by 2% and your hero skill damage by 6% every 4 seconds as long as you stand still. Very similar to the Celestial in that regard. Now, unfortunately, Thea doesn't do any skill damage, so, it's not amazing to pair with Thea, but if you wanted a flying unit and you wanted to use this flying unit, you would need to consolidate in and use Thea with Krieg, and then you can sort of fly around and do serious damage. There are, of course, other pairings that you could run. Any other combination where you're using marksmen, you could swap in your Wyvern Riders, and you can look at their base stats over here, which are pretty damn powerful. They've got 396 base attack, 120 magic defense, 170 physical defense, and 211 hit points. Well, let me just compare that for you to a regular marksman unit. Funny enough, compared to my regular marksman unit, they actually have less attack and they have less base stats. So that's kind of weird. Maybe this is just because I'm using the League of Order and there's something going on with the base stats of the ranged unit for Wilderburg, but that is interesting. I wasn't expecting to see less base attack on the flying unit. And I did just confirm, by the way, the base stats of the ballistas, that's the marksman for League of Order, is the same as the base stats for the T5 Wilderburg ranged unit. So that is interesting that you get less base stats on Wilderburg's unit. Presumably that's because the effect is really, really good. I mean, gaining hit points and 6% skill damage is really good. That's definitely better than just getting 5% attack. So I think that's why that works that way. And so what I'm trying to say is the special effect on the Wilderburg flying unit, I think, is probably a better effect than the 5% attack boost on the Celestials. But this, of course, depends on having flying heroes that do lots of skill damage, or you use marksmen. And then, whew, okay, very powerful. Now from here, we need to look at the final unit. And the final unit is a cavalry unit, okay? It is a flying cavalry unit, the Eagle. The Eagles are a melee unit as well. It says here that in battle, they swoop from great heights, greatly increasing their physical attack for a brief period. Okay, well, let's look at exactly what that does. Here's a picture of your Forest Eagle and their base stats. When we look at their abilities, the first ability makes it so that it can fly over terrain types and avoid being, okay, this is just standard flying stuff. That's standard flying language. Then from here, it says Eagles can launch a counterattack when being attacked by range units, but deal half their counterattack damage. And lastly, unyielding rush. March speed increases when approaching the target legion. After colliding with a ranged legion, the hero commanding this legion gains 1,000 rage. This effect can be triggered once every 12 seconds. This, by the way, is all exactly the same as how cavalry just generally works. So even though it says it increases their physical attack, I don't see that anywhere in the description of the Eagles. Maybe I'm just missing something. If we compare the stats of the two, we can look at just, hey, how does a cavalry unit look? And I think their stats are pretty much identical. In fact, if we look at these abilities, right, the counterattack here is the same. This ability with the charge effect is the same. This is, cavalry has the highest march speed. Okay, well, they don't have that. That's weird, man. Let's compare that real quick one more time. Yeah, they have less attack and the same amount of defense and hit points as a regular T5 unit. Bro, that's just weird. What am I missing? What is going on? Where is the actual attack boost on a Forest Eagle? It's kind of not listed here. But regardless, a Forest Eagle, a flying cavalry unit, is certainly powerful. The problem is that you don't exactly have a perfect pairing for this in the game right now. I've seen people use Krieg and Thea. Thea doesn't care about the troop type. Krieg just wants physical. He also boosts marksmen, which obviously your Forest Eagles are not. But that's sort of the best flying combo you have for them. I mean, the Eagles, and this is why I feel, by the way, the Eagles are so unable to be sort of fully utilized because there isn't a hero in game that can sort of capitalize on what they do. You don't have the equivalent of Atheus, who's like a magic unit, and like obviously there's synergies there with Celestials. Krieg is a marksman, obviously synergies with the Wyvern Riders. But the Forest Eagle is a weird one. You can use your Forest Eagles in regular cavalry units, by the way, like Emrys with Hosk or Emrys with Bakshi. And like, yeah, that's going to do really, really well. Obviously, Alistair is another cavalry commander you could use these with. But the Forest Eagle, in my opinion, will really grow in popularity as soon as we have a flying hero that works with cavalry. And when that happens, man, these guys are going to shred. You know, honestly, given the heroes we have in the game today, I feel like the Celestials are probably the best special unit. But I have good news for you. If you switch your faction, all of your current troops that are that flying unit switch to whatever the sort of flying unit is for the other faction. So if you're currently using Celestials and you want to try out Eagles, well, when you switch factions from one to another, I believe that all of your Celestials then become Eagles, and it's super easy. So think of your special flying unit as being sort of versatile depending on which faction you choose. Now, which faction you choose for a time of war is definitely a different question. But if you found this video helpful, breaking down the flying units in the game, do me a huge favor, throw a like on here and consider subscribing to the channel. I've got some big fights coming up that you're not going to want to miss. And if you're looking for more information about the factions in the game or which heroes I think are the very best to use in the field, cards will be in the end screen for those in just a second.